Welcome to USTC360. I am Ginger Chang. Thank you for joining us. Today, we visit one of San Francisco's oldest districts, Chinatown, which has become the largest Chinatown outside of Asia and the oldest Chinatown in North America. The first wave of Chinese immigrants came to the U.S. due to the appeal of the California gold rush beginning in 1849. Hence, San Francisco earned the name the Gold Mountain in Chinese. A majority of the immigrants were young single men who opened businesses or worked as agricultural laborers. Over the century, San Francisco's Chinatown has become an American neighborhood. However, adjusting to the customs and lifestyle of a new country at times is not an easy task. Fortunately, together with the San Francisco Food Bank, Tzu Chi volunteers have been giving the families whose children attend Gordon J. Lau Elementary School some sorely needed help with their weekly food distributions.
My name is Stacy Newman. I'm the media manager with the San Francisco Food Bank. And in my role at the San Francisco Food Bank, I'm charged with increasing the awareness of hunger in our community and expressing the great need that's going on for those that are struggling to feed themselves and their family on a regular basis. Since 2008, what we would consider the start of the recession, we've seen a 70% increase in requests for food. So our challenges have definitely been keeping pace with this growing demand for food assistance in our community.
My name is Henry Randolph, and I'm the distribution coordinator and warehouse supervisor. What I do is I work directly with the agencies when they come in and shop at the food bank. Last year we distributed over 30 million pounds of food last year. And this year our goal is to distribute over 40 million pounds, which I know we will accomplish and stuff. So we receive over 40 million pounds, and then we distribute over 40 million pounds. So altogether we handle probably about 80 million pounds of food each year.
We have more than 230 different pantries throughout San Francisco and Marin counties, and we're working with more than 400 different community partners. So the collaboration between the San Francisco Food Bank and the different partner agencies and the different corporate sponsors and foundations really allows us to get food to the people who need it the most. So the San Francisco Food Bank really acts as like the hub for bringing food in and sending it out to the different pantries throughout the city. And so Gordon J. Lau is really helping us to reach those families that are greatly in need of food assistance.
So Gordon J. Lau is it's the only food pantry in Chinatown that's at a public school site. And actually it serves around 350 families now, and that's actually the largest food pantry we have at any school site.
This school, Gordon J. Lau, located in the heart of Chinatown, is the largest elementary school in San Francisco. We have over 665 students. Some of the other elementary schools have as low as 250, 300 students. Some of the primary challenges, I would say, are that we have a lot of parents, a lot of families who are coming from Asian countries, and a lot of the parents, when they come, of the 665 students, 91% qualify for free and reduced lunch. So in terms of the socioeconomic status, they're on the lower spectrum.
I think most of the pantries that we serve in Chinatown, it's a large population. It's a lot of clients, a lot of people and families that are in need for food.
你好吗?
Northeast was the birthplace for the hospital.
The reason they immigrated to the States was that they believed the living environment and conditions were better here than in mainland China. I came to the United States with my husband. It happened to be his turn to receive an immigration visa from the US due to his support of his relatives in the United States. We came from Hong Kong and have resided here in San Francisco for about 20 years. The majority of immigrants in the San Francisco area came from the Taishan, Zhongshan, and Taiping counties of Canton Province in China. Usually, after these immigrants settle down, they immediately start applying for immigration visas for their family members back home. It has worked like that for generations.
We've given you a shopping grant to help you guys provide that much food. As you can imagine, 350 families every week costs a lot of money, and so we're helping you subsidize that by giving you a grant to do so.
The shoppers for Gordon Lau, they come in on Friday and they shop for all the food that we're going to deliver on Monday.
Every Friday we come over to shop for the Gordon Lau as well as for the Lau Elementary School. So we basically will have a certain budget that we'll work with. So we'll have to purchase all the items within that budget amount. And of course, also we have to give consideration in terms of the variety and also in terms of the nutrition. I have always this thing about feeding people. So, I mean, to shop for them, I mean, to me, it's a rather pleasant experience. And you're buying for them, you're thinking about those people who use those items. They can feed themselves, they can feed their kids. So, yeah, I mean, this is something which I enjoy to do.
After we invoice them out, we load everything up on a pallet and we tag it and we shrink wrap it and we get it ready to go out for Monday morning.
If 91% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch, that means 91% of our families are making use and they need that free food from the food bank. I think that's step one. That's one way that it can help our family. Number two, when Tzu Chi comes on site and helps us and does the volunteer work at our school, people don't realize how much that makes a difference to our school.
Because we hand out the food pantry for so many years, and then starting from last year, because they don't have any funding from federal or city, and then they shut off hand. So that's why they asked Tzu Chi whether we can have some sisters come over here to help our daily routine paperwork. So that's why of course Roseanne, she is our charity lead, and then she will ask me see whether I would like to take responsibility to come here every Tuesday and Thursday.
The fact that we don't have the money for that and Tzu Chi comes in to volunteers and assist us, whether it's in the office, whether it's clerical, whether it's talking to the parents or whatever and translating, okay? It makes a big difference. When we have our parent conferences, okay, you have so many parents who do not speak English, and we do have teachers there who don't speak Chinese. The mere fact that Tzu Chi comes here to help with the translation makes a world of difference.
Like the emergency forms, and also some notice for the parents, like the food pantry.
The San Francisco Bay Area has a greater concentration of Cantonese-speaking Chinese than anywhere in the U.S. According to the California Department of Educational Demographic Office data for 2010 to 2011, Gordon Lau Elementary School was among the schools determined to have more than 15% of its student population with translation needs. Luckily, since many of the Tzu Chi volunteers are multilingual, they have been bridging the language gap for the Chinese families and the school faculty. The food distributions initially were so unorganized because the parents would fight and scramble to get the food provisions that it was to the point the school had considered to stop the program altogether. However, since Tzu Chi volunteers stepped in with assistance, the parents, according to Principal Dennis Chu, are organized and well-behaved.
So in terms of the food bank, I think we've seen some great strides, great improvement in terms of logistics, efficiency, and parent participation.
You know, Chinatown is very limited in space, and 350 of any crowd is really difficult to maintain.
Before, it's not organized, because the parents, they don't listen to you. They just line up, like 7:30 in the early morning, right over the downhill.
他们就是怕领不到食物，所以我们11点。
We opened the facility at 11 a.m. for registration and food distribution, but they come here to line up and wait as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. They are afraid that they won't get their chance to receive food if they arrive late. We told the elderly not to come so early because the temperature difference was very big during the day and we couldn't bear to see them suffering outside for several hours. But it never worked. They still arrived that early.
真的是没有用，因为他们还是那么早来。
They use the cardboard or stone or chair to occupy the space. Make sure to get number 1 or number 2 at the beginning.
Parents have actually gotten into verbal arguments, and had to go out there and stuck with the arguments because the argument who was in line first.
If we ask them to stand like this, straight line, or they don't, they will shout to you and say some bad words. One time they say some really nasty words to us.
When Tzu Chi volunteers were ready to distribute the food, they would just grab things on their own and even fight amongst themselves to the point that some would be bloody.
那在排队的时候，消防车要进去。
Sometimes the people in line wouldn't even let fire trucks pass, even though that's a severe public safety violation. In December, the assistant principal informed us, the Tzu Chi volunteers, that if we couldn't improve the situation, the food distribution program would need to be canceled.
发放秩序的话，
We were very worried about the well-being of those 300 parents and 700 plus students in the school.
700-800位的学生就这样子没有食物。
Because before, principal keep complaining a lot, why they have to go. Because they don't listen to you.
Tzu Chi and I got together, we talked about it, and we trained the parents, okay? Again, train the parents that they cannot do certain things like litter.
We kept holding meetings to try and figure out ways to deal with these unfortunate situations. We had been using the same colored cards for the past 3 years. Sometimes parents didn't bring their cards with them, or some people would try to come through the line twice. We learned from our experiences.
他们会重复领2次。
我用那2个你做什么了？拿走了，我身旁拿走了。
那我们今年就是做。
This year, we used 4 different colors to represent the different weeks. For example, we used red cards last week, like this kind of red.
然后这礼拜可能会。
This week is blue. Next week is yellow. And the following week will be green. If parents take 2 blue cards this week, they won't be able to receive food using the blue card next week because the color will then be yellow.
那你下次的话，你若是没有来拿的话，那下次你就领不到食物，因为我们是换一种颜色的。
Now, because we have set up something like this in order, so they have to follow our Tzu Chi order to make sure, they come on time, or they don't come early, or they don't come late.
People are learning to be more civil to each other. In the past, people would be yelling, hey, I was here first, I was here second, they would be arguing this and that.
有一次我们就是。
There is one time we sat down with them and told them one by one that we require them to come at 11 o'clock, not at 9 and not at 7. If they came too early, we would be giving them the highest card numbers starting at number 300, and the second person will get number 299. The assistant principal told us that they started lining up at 7:30, so we did as we said we would since we told them just last week. There was an elderly lady who always arrived first in the early morning, so we gave her card number 300, and she sighed when she saw the card. And then our sister gave the next person number 299, 298, and so on.
那到中间的时候，知道说。
As we approached the middle of the line, people began to realize that we were actually serious about this new rule. so they all ran back towards the end of the line. It was actually pretty funny.
真的是蛮好笑的啦。就好，然后
Next time, we will use a lottery system to pick out the card numbers.
Students, they come to school and they get their education. But what everyone has to realize is education goes beyond what you read in a book. Education goes beyond what happens in the classroom. Teaching the kid requires the entire community. Students need to see that whatever they do, they need to contribute something back to society. So even if they say, oh, well, my mother said, my father said, I have to become a doctor and make a lot of money, okay, that's fine. But even if you have to be a doctor, you should at least consider, do you have time to do some volunteer work? Can you work at a free clinic? Okay, when Tzu Chi comes to this school and does volunteer work, other students can look around and say, hey, you know what, these people are doing this for free, the volunteer work, you know, at some point, all students in this school need to realize community service, volunteer work is as important as their own education that they get from a book. When you go out and do some volunteer work, the humanitarian component is not something you're going to get from reading a book or taking a test. You could be the brightest individual in the world, but you don't know how to help people, then education is useless.
They have their own reasons for immigrating to the United States, but primarily it's because they have children back home.
我咧即係1992年3月31號嚟美國。你攞得食啊！你攞到真係好開心咯！好多謝即係美國政府啊，同埋多謝師姐啊、師兄啊、全制啊。咁嚟美國咧，即係主要即係同我啲先生一齊咁咧可以咧有申請啲仔女大家嚟美國團聚。他們覺得外國的教育。
They feel that the education system in the United States is better than in China.
寧願犧牲自己。
That's why they would rather make the sacrifice to do labor-intensive work and immigrate to the States, so that their children can receive a better education. The other reason is that their children will grow up healthier in the United States.
也是他們最主要的目的為主，大家一齊咁等啲細路仔孫咁嚟呢度讀書受好嘅教育，咁大家一個家庭一齊團聚，好開心嘅一件事好難得。
They came to this world with really rough start, and my job is to unleash their potential through the resources we have right now, and then just like a kickstart to get them going. Once they are in the momentum, in the right path, their potential is unlimited, and I feel that we owe it to those children to help them, because when we come to this world, somebody help us unconditionally, and it's our turn to really help them out too.
It's vital for students to know that being a charitable person is just as important as being academically successful. However, every child is brought up differently. The Wall Street Journal reported that in a study of 50 Western American mothers and 48 Chinese immigrants, nearly 70% of the Western mothers felt it's better to encourage the idea that learning is fun, whereas 0% of the Chinese mothers disagreed. Instead, they believed perfect grades reflected successful parenting. But every child is different, and parents in general need to accept and respect their child's individuality. So in the spirit of Gordon J. Lau, a civic activist who pushed for the betterment of the Asian American community in Chinatown, and for whom the school was named, students should be inspired to unleash their own potentials and choose their own paths. In our next segment, Footprints, we introduce you to Shirley Leung, who is the current Vice President at Tzu Chi Northern California chapter in San Jose. Education has always been a central part in Shirley's life. After graduating from National Taiwan Normal University, Shirley moved to Thailand for a teaching job at a Chinese school. While she was there, Shirley even had the chance to perform a folk dance in front of the King of Thailand. Shirley then immigrated to the U.S. and taught at the University of Maryland. However, Shirley's life came to an abrupt halt when she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Fortunately, she has been able to cope with the disease, and one way is being a Tzu Chi volunteer.
Life is impermanent. When I was 52 years old, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis led to a full-body pathological change. In the earlier stage, my hands and feet began to change shape. I constantly feel swelling, pain, and stiffness. In 1994, I realized Tzu Chi was a wonderful organization. So when I came across any person, I'd always try to introduce Tzu Chi to them. I remember Master Zheng Yin had said, "Everyone is a scripture that is worthy of learning." While working in Tzu Chi, I forgot the pain my body is in. It is a great form of therapy. Having the ability to help others is the best blessing. I gradually became more and more invested in Tzu Chi. Every activity is an opportunity for us to learn and mature. My left hand was rendered useless as a result of the surgery, but I'm able to work in Tzu Chi because of my husband's help. Every day, I tell him that I can't live without him in my life. For 17 years, Master Zheng Yin's saying, "Bear this moment of enthusiasm that you have now always in mind," has inspired and motivated me to keep going forward without stopping.
Shirley actually spearheaded the food pantry program at Lau Elementary School. Shirley says she is aware that life is transient and her disease can relapse at any given moment, but she will hold on to every second to do Tzu Chi's missions. I am Ginger Chang. Please join me next week where we will visit the homes of the immigrant families living in Chinatown.